Welcome to the Art of the Interview. I'm Julia Wiegand here with Joe Pohorilis, and we have the new chair of the journalism department here with us, Brian McGrory. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Joe, for having me.
Well, we surrounded you with newspapers, tried to make you feel a little bit more at home, so we figured it'd be best to start out with, what is the headline of your first 3 months here at BU?
That's a really good question. I think the headline is probably a really good program in journalism and ready for an update.
What updates does it need?
So I think that I'm walking into a department that is on really strong footing. It's got an excellent faculty, and I'm really excited about that. Like, the faculty is off the charts great. It's well funded. We're at a university that is obviously on the rise and very prestigious. The benefit, I think, of having me and some other professors coming in now is you're bringing people straight in from the industry who have been there and done it amid an industry that's changing very, very fast, so that we can bring in current know-how to the department and hopefully update it in a lot of different respects. This is an interesting transition. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm a lifelong journalist. The only thing I ever wanted to do in my whole life was be a reporter. The only place I ever wanted to be a reporter was for the Boston Globe. I grew up here. A newsroom is my native habitat. Like, I didn't know what I would be like outside of a newsroom environment. So this has been really interesting for me. I'm used to measuring my productivity in, minutes online and days in the daily paper. And suddenly in academia, it's a little bit longer term, and you get to step back and you get to think more. Not that I wasn't thinking at the Globe, but you get to think more about what you're doing and take a more holistic look at things. So it's been a really interesting transition for me.
Why now? Why the timing of making this change?
So it's a good question. I had been at the Globe for 34 years. I had been the editor-in-chief for 10 years. When I took the editor role back in late 2012, I said at the time that this would be a good job for anybody to do for 5 to 8 years. Actually, I think I might have said 7 years. I think it's important for big institutions and important institutions to regularly refresh the leadership, especially in an industry like journalism that's changing as fast as it is, and it's changing very, very fast.
And we spoke to Professor Mitch Zuckoff, who said that you've been friends for around 35 years, and he mentioned that you had multiple academic jobs on the table. So why Boston University?
Because BU is a really great school. I mean, it's an important part of Boston. I'm a native of Boston. I love this place to its core. And BU is a place that it just has a feeling that it's on the rise, and specifically, being able to chair the journalism program in this moment when the news industry is under threat, when democracy is under threat, when we're trying to figure out a lot of different things and how they fit together, it just seemed like an extraordinary opportunity to take on.
Now, when we talk about faculty, we also have to talk about diversity. Now, walking down the hall in COM, where you have all of the faculty's photos lined up, you see 4 faculty members that are of color. Mm-hmm. So what do you think that says about BU COM?
I think it says that we need more diversity, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. We need more diversity in COM. We need faculty that reflect both the student body and the region at large. And I know it's a priority for the dean. It is absolutely a priority for me. The thing about increasing diversity in diverse perspectives is you can't just wave a wand and have it happen immediately. This will happen over time. And when I say over time, I'm not talking like academic time, like a decade. I'm talking, give me a little while. And we will be very intentional about making sure that we increase diverse perspectives in COM.
And how will you go about that?
Well, it all comes down to hiring. I mean, it's not that clever. It's not that complicated. It's again, it's about having intentionality when we hire and making sure that our applicant pools reflect the needs of the university. I do think that various hiring committees have done a very good job recently. I think we have brought in some more diversity recently. It's been really important to see, and I want that trend to continue and even accelerate.
Now, how would you define objective journalism?
It's a good question. And it's been obviously a very hot button issue in the industry today. And you can talk to very smart people within the journalism industry, people I've worked with, people I respect, who might have very different answers to what that is. I mean, look, I personally believe that the notion of pure objectivity is something that is really difficult to achieve. None of us are robots. We all carry our life's experience to the table and to the keyboard. And I think that's important to acknowledge. If you try to run from that, then you're just not going to be fully understanding of maybe the challenges and the opportunities that present themselves when we do journalism. I do think, though, that we do need to keep in check some of our stronger opinions about things, and that we do need to understand that there are various sides to most issues.
Now, you mentioned robots, and I would like to bring up really quickly ChatGPT. So I'm a TA personally, and I had a student recently submit a project that came up with the AI detection as 39% AI. Yeah. So how do you feel about something like ChatGPT in journalism?
So I'm in the process of sorting my feelings out when you ask how I feel about it. I mean, this is a set of issues that is moving really fast. It's like so many other things in life. This happened gradually and then really suddenly, and to the point where you have a lot of the leading technologists in the world, including people who are behind the productivity of AI, letting us know that we need to pause this. Like, we just need to take a break from this because this could overwhelm us in ways that are actually hard to get your head around. So I'm proud that BU, at least one department within BU, has already put forth a policy on AI in academia and in the classroom. But I also think we all need to understand that this is moving really fast, and things that are set in stone now really aren't.
Well, in order to appreciate where you are today, we have to understand where you come from. You spent over 30 years at the Globe, but in your first 4 months as editor, the Boston Marathon bombing happened. We're at the 10th year anniversary. What feelings do you still have from that time?
Very deep feelings. Look, you come across some stories in your career that are inevitably defining. And to your point, Joe, this happened in my 4th month as editor of the Globe, and it was a catastrophe that is almost impossible to get your head around how awful it was. I mean, it was awful. Dozens and dozens and dozens of people whose lives permanently changed because of it. They lost limbs, they lost loved ones, they lost hearing, all sorts of terrible things. I was really proud of a couple of things in terms of our coverage, even as I understood the human toll. I was really proud of the community and how it responded. I mean, Boston really showed its best, its very best in the days and weeks and months after this happened. And I was really proud of the Globe and how it covered this. We won the Pulitzer Prize for our coverage, but more important than even that, we had all vowed to ourselves in the Globe newsroom, literally in the hours and days after the bombs went off, that the eyes of the world were upon Boston then, that whole week. If you recall, it was a breaking news story that lasted for a full week until Tsarnaev was captured. We knew all these news organizations were going to be there. We also knew they were going to leave, and that the Boston Globe was there to represent the victims for as long as it took. And we needed to do that with empathy and with humanity, and I think that's what separated us from everybody else in this story.
You mentioned the empathy and humanity, but also the pride and the Pulitzer. How do you balance, celebrating your newsroom success, winning the Pulitzer Prize in breaking news reporting, but also balancing it when it's tied to something so tragic?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the way we balanced it wasn't a celebration. It was an acknowledgement. When we won the Pulitzer for that, we didn't erupt in cheers or anything like that. What we did was take a long moment of silence to remember 4 people who died and many, many people who were injured over the course of that week. So it does create, normally you win a Pulitzer, it's champagne and all that kind of stuff. This was a different kind of thing. We appreciated very much the acknowledgement, but really more meaningful was the coverage itself, what it meant for the community and the relationships that we ended up having with many of the people most directly affected by the bombings.
How much do you miss the daily news rush and brainstorming coverage right there in the newsroom?
Not as much as I thought. I had a lot of it. I've had 34 years of it, and I had 10 years of it as editor, and I loved it, like absolutely loved it. I thrived on it, but I did enough of it. And one of the things that has been important to me is I haven't left the Globe entirely. I am remaining as an opinion columnist for the Globe. That allows me access to an audience and allows me to weigh in on big news events as I want to do that. So that's been very important to me.
Why?
Because I'm a journalist. I mean, I wasn't ready. I was ready to leave the editorship. I wasn't ready to leave the business. And bluntly, I probably wasn't ready to leave the Globe. So the idea of keeping my hand in it, I think, is really important to me. I also think it's important to BU and the students in the program to have somebody in the role I'm in still having a hand in the actual production of journalism.
Now, I can speak for myself when I say that I am going to be here next semester as a grad student. Joe is graduating, so I will be seeing you next semester. What is the first thing that you want to tackle as the chair for journalism?
First, I'm going to start teaching a class in the fall, which I'm excited about. I didn't teach this semester because I started a little bit late, so I'm really intrigued about getting into the classroom and seeing how that feels. And maybe I shouldn't say this. I have no idea if I'll be any good as a teacher or not, but I'm hoping I'll be somewhat okay. So I'm excited about that.
Sorry, what classes are you teaching?
I am teaching the JO 200 class, the Introduction to News Writing class, and I think that'll give me a good start in how to do this kind of thing.
What would you like to teach?
I mean, eventually, I'd love to do something on opinion writing, specifically column writing. I was a columnist for as long as I was the editor of the Globe, and in truth, column writing is probably my first love in the business. I mean, it's a really great thing to do and do it meaningfully. I'd also perhaps like to teach a class on the disruption in the industry, and I have this kind of dream of teaching a class in which we invent our own news organization and build it from the ground up, and measure what kind of audience are we seeking, what kind of journalism do we want to do, what kind of impact do we want to have, and then look at all the novel approaches around the industry that have been taken in terms of getting more journalism. In my perfect world, we would actually build a newsroom right here in this building, and it would be professionally staffed with editors who would work with faculty and students.
What stories do you hope to tell now that you're at BU?
I hope what I want to do is tell a lot of stories through students. And, quite literally, I want students to tell great stories in news organizations all over the place and, learn the craft that way. Figuratively, I want to put BU, I've said this to the faculty, Boston University can have the best journalism program in America, bar none. And we have all the resources, we have the capability, BU is a prestigious university, Boston is a media capital of the world, the journalism department has an extraordinary faculty. I want the story of BU's journalism program to be the story that is the best in America.
Professor McGrory? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. Great questions. Thank you.
Of course. And that's all the time we have. This has been The Art of the Interview.